And Talk 1380 WAOK.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's time for the movement.
Good afternoon, y'all.
Are you down?
Good evening.
Are you down?
Let's go.
Are you down? Are you down? Are you down, down, down with the movement? It's the movement. Are you down? Are you down? Are you down, down, down with the movement?
With Dr. F.
Slaughter. Now open the beer, so much to hear. There's nothing to fear.
On this radio.
WAOK. There's chatter and laughter. Sometimes there's good things going down.
Are you down?
Sometimes there's bad things going down. So open up your mind as we talk about the times. And if you wanna call in on 1380, then you can talk about the movement with Dr. F. Slaughter.
Dr. F. Keith Slaughter. First and foremost, black people, if you listen to that name, you hear that name? Dr. F. Keith Slaughter.
Tell me Essex, England is down with the movement.
Oh my goodness, it's so down you can't get any deeper.
News and Talk 1380 WAOK, the voice of the community. It's your brother, Dr. F. Keith Slaughter. I'm up in here getting it in from 7 to 10, exactly where I'm supposed to do it. Across from me, my DJ JD Smooth Criminal, in the place to be. And it's a fantasy Friday. Because in your fantasy, you in charge of my show. So we talking about what you talking about today. Whatever it is you want to talk about, blow me up, 404-892-2703. We'll chop it up. And if you go to the group page, The Movement with Dr. F. Keith Slaughter on Facebook, and put in your request as a fantasy DJ, if it's funky enough, we'll bump it. All right? But we ain't bumping no half funky. It's got to be under the garbage can in the back of the alley, you know, where the little plug that let the juice out the garbage can is. It's got to be funky like that. You see what I'm saying? 404-892-2703 is the number. You know what? It's your show, but I got a sister that has come through the door, and I'm going to let her get a little bit of y'all time today, if you don't mind. This sister is an individualized education program coach, a consultant and author, a special needs sibling, wife, mother of 4, and an educational empowerment speaker. Her passion for America's intellectually disabled youth is driven by firsthand experience, which is covered in her book that I have in my hand, Lost and Found. Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, put your hands together for my dear sister, Angela West Brown.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, dear sister.
Yes.
You're welcome. You're the first person that came up in here and strapped your pocketbook right here on the.
Are you serious?
On the, you strapped your pocketbook on the chair. So it's like, ain't nobody getting my pocketbook up and up yet, okay? 404.
It's a habit. It's just a habit.
You got that thing strapped up tight. I ain't mad at you. 404-892-2703. I haven't stolen much lately.
Oh, my
But
God.
I ain't saying I won't.
Ooh.
404-892-2703. All right. The name of your book is Lost and Found, educating parents of intellectually disabled high school students on how to navigate through college, adulthood, and beyond.
That's correct.
This is heavyweight.
Yes, it is.
This is heavyweight. Talk about how it is you came to write this particular text.
Okay. So about 10 years ago, my sister graduated from high school. She has intellectual disabilities. And she was supposed to start a program at Morris Brown. And as you know, Morris Brown, they lost their accreditation. And after that, there was no plans in place for her. My grandmother was receiving SSI, which is at the federal level. But then as I started to realize after I worked for DFACS, which is the Age Blind Disability Services as a Medicaid eligibility specialist, I discovered that there were so many state benefits and waiver programs that my grandmother could have applied for if she knew about it, but she didn't know. My grandmother did the best she could. And after my sister just didn't have anything else in place. She just started running away and getting lost to the streets, hence the title Lost and Found. And from there, it just began to be such a hard struggle for my family because nobody really knew what to do. Nobody really was there to guide us and guide my grandmother's hand on what her next step should have been. Excuse me. And so, what I've decided to do after my sister ended up pregnant, and that was just such a hard, it was hard for me, and it was a heartache type thing that my little sister, this is my baby sister, and there was nothing I could do. I felt helpless. And that's when everybody wanted to step in and say, okay, we'll help now that this little baby is here. But I had called out for help, prior to the situation getting to the point that it was at.
Right.
I reached out to legal services, and they were telling me, okay, it's only so much we can do. I tried to get a power of attorney. There was nothing I could do there. I tried to reach out to different programs. And here's the kicker. Once your child gets 18 years old, there's nothing you can do.
You have very, very little rights as it relates to
nothing. You can
your
clearly see that your child or your relative, your sister, your brother, whomever it may be, needs additional help and support. But if it wasn't put in place during the IEP, the transition process, which is why I'm so heavily focused on the IEP and transition planning, so that parents can start preparing as early as age 14, not junior year, not senior year. Let's start looking at it during the middle school years about what the plans are after high school.
Right. So what you're suggesting is that as soon as a child or a young adult is diagnosed with being developmentally disabled, then the IEP or the individual educational plan needs to kick in at that moment.
Well, it automatically kicks in at that moment once that child has been assessed. But we're talking about a step further, which is the adult transition planning. From K through 8, it's just pretty much the developmental levels, the goal setting for their math, reading, those different type of areas, if they have a speech impairment or anything of that nature. But we're talking about what needs to happen once that child becomes a young adult, a teen. Once they reach 14, 15, that's when the transition planning starts. But the actual IEP starts the moment that child has been diagnosed with a special need. So the IEP jumps in. But the key is the IEP a strong, meaningful IEP? Does it really speak to the unique needs of that child? So that's where I step in as well. A lot of times these IEPs are not really beneficial to that child. It's just put in place for protection for the school, but it's not helping the child.
And I would imagine that one of the difficulties has to be with having created culturally sensitive IEPs.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would imagine that's a difficulty and can be a difficulty as if persons in the school system who do not look like or do not have the same approximate experiences as the persons.
And
that
also the generational gap as well, because my grandmother raised us. She didn't really know what to do next, and that is a barrier as well. People are not as in tuned or aware of the resources that are available if they are a part of a certain zip code. Let's just be honest. If you're not in a certain zip code, then there's certain things that you're not privy to, and that's a disadvantage.
Okay, so we were talking about, you were saying Black folks don't have the same information that other folks have.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why we're in this situation now with my sister. I mean, she's still back and forth on the street.
All right, sister, this is the movement. We put it down. we just say it. All right.
That's right.
All right, it's Black talk the hard way.
Okay, well, I'll keep it completely
bring it hard.
authentic 100, okay?
All right. When we come back on the other side of the break, I'm going to continue with my sister, Angela West Brown, who is a IEP life coach and consultant. The name of her business is ARWB, and that stands for
ARW Brown. That's my name. Educational Coaching Services.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to continue with our conversation. My name is Slaughter. And I need for my people who are standing by to hold on. I'm coming at you. Remember, you're valuable, you're important, and you are loved. News and Talk, 1380 WAOK. Oh my goodness. On the Wheels of Steel is Yolanda Dupree. Down with the Movement family. That's some old school LaBelle, and that's grimy. Sus, I didn't know you had it in you. Man, when you get on them Wheels of Steel, it's something else, man. 404-892-2703 is the number. I feel that. That's all right. That's. I think they call that soul music right there, because that hit me right in the heart. 404-892-2703. You are valuable. You are important. You are loved. And you my sister. You my brother. And we don't need anybody else to validate us. We validate ourselves. We don't need nobody else's love. We love ourselves. And we build up ourselves. And that's what we're about today. It's a Fantasy Friday, but it's a special healing edition of the movement. In the studio with me, Angela West Brown, who is an IEP life coach and consultant. And we were talking about when we headed toward the break, the individualized education plan. Tell us about how many people actually have, or families or children suffer with developmental disabilities in our community or worldwide.
Worldwide,
or,
over
nationwide.
6.5 million.
6.5 in this country.
Yes.
That's significant.
Mm-hmm.
So how,
seen and unseen, because every disability is not seen.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I've had, I do counseling and therapy with people, and I had a client that has two daughters that are developmentally disabled.
Okay.
But when you look at them, there is no indication when you look at these young ladies.
Absolutely.
But when you get down to the decision making,
Oh God, yes.
okay,
Yes.
the decision making is impaired,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, how is it that you work with these persons and their families to help them develop different kinds of decision making skills?
So basically, that's one of the things that I focus on, because a lot of the teens with special needs, intellectual disabilities, or developmental disabilities, they are not able to determine a threat to their safety.
Mm-hmm.
They consider everyone their friend.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes them vulnerable
Right.
to being taken advantage of.
Right.
So I try to teach the parents to know how to interpret situations, like do kind of this role play simulation type thing of, this is what you do in this situation. It's not the regular danger. What is that? Stranger danger.
Mm-hmm.
It goes beyond stranger danger when someone has a developmental disability or intellectual disability.
Mm-hmm.
And those are different strategies that have to be put in place to help that parent. So I'm pretty much connecting that parent to classes and workshops that can help them learn how to teach their child how to distinguish between a good threat, a good person and a bad person, or any type of threat that may be to their safety. And it's a touchy subject, because it's something that we take for granted, that we just normally know how to do. You can feel that instinctive intuition that may tell you, okay, this situation isn't safe. This person is giving me a bad feeling or a bad vibe. But someone such as my sister, they know no stranger. They see no danger. It's everyone that smiles at them is their friend, and that is so dangerous.
Yeah, in this day and time particularly, no doubt. So You talk about the differences, the disparities, and the overlaps between what's available from a federal perspective and what's
Oh,
available from a
yes.
state perspective.
Ooh.
Say more about that.
Okay, so there is a major gap in communication with the federal level and the state level. So, like I was stating before, a lot of parents, especially older parents that may be grandparents raising their grandchildren, or even parents, they may not know. Even though it's been 10 years, a lot hasn't changed. Um, you have to go into the Department of Family and Children Services and apply for a Katie Beckett, a Comp Now waiver. You have to have your child registered as disabled at a state level. You would think, okay, federal trumps all of this, but it doesn't. That's only half the battle.
You just hit on something. I would imagine that it is a difficult step to take to have one's child to be classified as
Oh, yes.
intellectually or developmentally disabled, because of the stigma
Yes.
attached to that designation. How do you help people work through that initial fear?
Well, it's kind of this hand in hand type thing, right? So now we're seeing an increase in celebrities coming out and, letting people know I have a brother or a sister with a disability. But that wasn't the case before. So I think that before I could even come in and coach the parent about handling and coming to terms with their child, the climate had to change. And the climate changed once celebrities started saying, hey, I'm not ashamed of my sister. This is my sister with Down syndrome. I'm not ashamed of my brother. My brother has intellectual disabilities. And then, everybody follows what they see others do in the celebrity world. But even with all of that being said and that happening, you still have some parents that may feel like I failed my child some kind of way, or I let my child down, or people will judge me because I have a child with a disability. And so I try to help them transition and come to terms with those feelings and let them know, like, your child is still unique and blessed, and you are blessed to have this child.
Yes.
This child is a star baby, okay?
Yeah.
This child is destined for greatness.
Yes.
This child, you have to just figure out what that child's strengths are. The child may not have the same abilities as the next child, but that child has a superpower. That's what I call it.
Okay.
And you just have to tap into it. Now, if you just constantly, like we're going back to the IEP, if you're looking at the present levels of performance and all they keep harping on is what your child can't do, what your child haven't mastered, they're going to feel like, oh my God, can I do anything right? Even though they may not be able to verbally say it, you can still, your baby. You can tell when their energy is off. You can tell when they're feeling some type of self-doubt or just feeling, you can feel energy in the room.
Inadequate and inferior because, not only do they have to deal with the presence of developmental disability or intellectual disability, but you still got to deal with racism, white supremacy that's piled on top of that. Yeah.
On top of that.
Yeah.
So it's layer on top of layer, but my job is to help you remove the layers. Okay? I have to first help the parents see what it is in them that's holding them back from loving their child and having this fierceness. And I'm not saying all my parents feel that way. Some may say it, some may not. But at the same time, the parent has to still come to terms with their internal work, their internal, self-talk, negative self-talk towards having a child with a developmental disability.
So you coaching not just the children, you coaching the parents.
Because they need it first. And then it'll spill over into the child. That love have to start with the parent first. And then it'll spill over into those babies.
Okay. The name of the book is Lost and Found, Educating Parents of Intellectually Disabled High School Students on How to Navigate Through College, Adulthood, and Beyond. How can people get the book?
Well, it's on Amazon, it's on Barnes & Noble, and it's on my website, www.angelawestbrown.com.
Okay. And do you have workshops? Do you do workshops? Or
I
that
do
kind of thing?
monthly webinars on adult transition planning.
Okay. How can people tune into your webinars?
Well, they're live on my Facebook page.
Okay.
ARW Brown ECCS1.
Okay. All right, then, and if you will, give people your social media information, how they can get everything associated with a Aura. What's the Aura for?
That's my middle name.
Oh, okay,
Renee.
ARWB. How can they get the information to get in contact with you to make sure that they get this?
Well,
information?
everything is on my website,
Okay.
www.angelawestbrown.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, put your hands together for my dear sister Angela West Brown. And
Thank
if
you
you're
for
a
having
parent,
me.
if you're a parent of an intellectually disabled high school student, you want to reach out to her through www.angelawestbrown.com.
That's right. That's right.
Shucks, it don't get no
Simple.
It don't get no easier.
Yes.
There you go. Sister, you did an excellent job. You talking about, I don't know that radio. You did a great job on your first interview. All right, and you're welcome to come back to the movement.
you.
You're welcome to come back anytime. All right?
Thank you.
All right, sister. 404-892-2703 is the number. I'm your brother. I'll be black when I get back. It's the movement.